And so, like, this appears that it's just like, Netanyahu, him and the Likud party have basically absorbed the insane Kahanist party into their ranks to shore up their chances of winning this election. Like, is it going to be close at all, or like, what's going on there?
So I haven't seen any polling on this election in a while. The last polling that I saw suggested that it could be close. Netanyahu is facing probably his biggest challenge in at least the last couple of elections, in the form of Benny Gantz, who is the ex chief of staff of the Israeli Defense Forces, and has formed his own kind of. People call it centrist. The idea of like the center in Israeli politics is so far to the right that it's kind of ridiculous to call it that. But in that context, I guess they are centrist. He's formed his own party alongside a businessman named Yair Lapid, who's been a sort of fixture in the Israeli center for a while now. It's called the Blue and White Party. There has been some polling that suggests Gantz's party could finish slightly ahead of the Likud party in terms of the number of seats that it wins in the legislature. However, that technically would give Gantz sort of the first crack at forming a coalition and becoming prime minister. However, even in those polls, the ones that show that Gantz may, eke out a slim win, his mathematical path to forming a coalition, in other words, to controlling a majority of seats in the legislature, is a lot harder than Netanyahu's. So when it comes time to actually cobble together a bunch of parties, which always happens after an Israeli election, to get the number of seats that you need to form the government, Netanyahu should have an easier path to that than Gantz.
I like how they always have to do that. Oh, they got to scramble to get those necessary seats. There's like 6 guys in the Knesset. It's incredibly tiny, right? It's like 100 or something.
It's 120. 120 seats.
Adorable. I think there are more people in the New Hampshire State House than there are in the Knesset. I'm serious about that. They have a notoriously huge state house. I love the fact that there's a very good chance Netanyahu's going to get in there, even though he has a credible opponent, and he is on the verge of getting indicted. They said they were going to indict him.
Yes, he's on the verge. They decided to wait until after the election to indict him. Not that there's a fix there or anything. Yes, I mean, they decided they didn't want to interfere with the election, and so they've interfered with the election by not indicting him, even though the evidence is there to indict him.
That's the work of Attorney General James Comey.
What exactly is Netanyahu like these charges that he's faced with here? Is this just like standard political corruption or what?
Yeah, I mean, there's some kind of, accepting gifts from rich people that he probably shouldn't have accepted. There's at least one charge that's related to, he approached a media company and said, in exchange, if you give me good coverage, favorable coverage, I'll be nice to you in a regulatory sense. So he's doing a little horse trading in that regard. I mean, it's kind of standard corruption stuff, but the evidence, if it's enough to indict, I mean, the tradition historically in Israeli politics has been if you get indicted for something like this, you resign, and Netanyahu's not going to do that.
Hell no.
So that's where things stand, I guess.
He won't be in trouble until he's accused of molesting children in the basement of a falafel store.
But Likud and Netanyahu have been like the dominant political force in Israeli politics for a long time now. And such that like when times are good, they can coast along on this idea that like actually like Israel is a multi-ethnic democracy and we have Arabs who are in the Knesset or whatever. But as soon as they under any amount of pressure, they go straight to like the insane nationalist fascist parties, and then passing that law recently that like explicitly makes it clear that Israel for the Jews only.
Yes, I mean they passed the this new national law that makes it clear that if you're not Jewish, you can still be a citizen, but you're not really a first-class citizen. You're kind of in a lower level of citizenship. Yes, I mean, Netanyahu's pattern has been anytime he's challenged internationally for Israel's treatment of the Palestinians, he comes back with, we're the only democracy in the region. Arab Israelis are treated, they're full citizens, they can do whatever they want. But as soon as it comes time for an election, he starts, giving speeches and cutting ads like, the Arabs are voting. Can you believe this? You have to do something about this, to get his base, his insanely right-wing base, out to support him.
And then
this is how he whips up support.
The guys who really go buck wild are his junior partners in the coalition, the Jewish Home Party, whose ads are even more insane than Netanyahu's Likud ones. They've got two that are genuinely jaw-dropping. One of them is with Ayet Shalad, or however the hell.
God, that's right.
The dime, who's the justice minister,
Yes.
where it's a fake perfume ad.
Like a Calvin Klein ad.
Where the perfume is called fascism. And the punchline is at the end, she says, smells like democracy to me. And then the other one that just came out today, and that honestly...
That's jaw-dropping. This one is insane.
Well, buckle in.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Yeah, oh, right. Will knows what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Heard it. You probably heard this, Derek.
I haven't seen it.
Okay,
No.
this one is with the head. The head of the Home Party is Naftali Bennett, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And he
Correct.
did one where he picks up a dove, and a literal dove in his hand, and he scolds it for thinking that peace is good, and how you're an idiot for trying to get peace. And she shot it in the exact square where Rabin was assassinated.
Holy crap! Serious?
Yeah, no, yeah. I saw that this morning. Like he's standing like X marks the spot.
Yeah.
He's like it would be like if you did like a commercial outside the book depository or whatever, just being
my
like,
God.
yeah.
I mean, they're like,
And then he's
just,
he's like seriously, like not even like winking, just saying like, yeah, like we murked his ass and we were right to do it.
yeah, talk shit, get hit. Yeah,
Jesus, that's wild.
it's mass off time, baby.
I was reading some horrible op-ed in the Forward this week from an Israeli citizen who's I'm a typical Israeli liberal, and like the whole op-ed was agonizing over like, I just don't know who I'm going to vote for in this election. It's the age-old question: to Netanyahu or not to Netanyahu. And essentially the point they were making as an Israeli liberal is that our elections are different because like all of the issues that other people American elections are fought over are settled here. Like abortion's legal, it's not going anywhere. We have a national health care system. Everything's great and good. The only issue that anyone ever votes on is just security. Who's going to keep us safe? And Netanyahu in her mind has done the best job. In her words, fewer Jews have died under his rule than at any other point. So like she's like, I might be tempted to vote blue and white, but then what are they going to do in terms of security? Like as if like that party, I'm sure, they're going to immediately recognize Palestine and like open up the Gaza Strip or something.
Yeah, there's almost no daylight between Netanyahu and Gantz on the Palestinian issue. I mean,
so like, what are they?
Netanyahu has argued that Gantz is like some kind of peacenik who's going to, open up Israel to the Arabs or whatever. But, on its face, that's a ridiculous argument, given Gantz's background as the ex-chief of staff of the IDF.
He's been running with ads bragging about what a great job he did organizing and directing Cass
bombing
Led.
Gaza, basically.
Yeah. It's like, do you remember Cass Led? I kicked the shit out of him.
Right.
And also, I mean, we should not let this go talking about the Israeli election without mentioning that, over the last even days or weeks, I mean, they have been fucking going hog wild on the border with Gaza. They've killed with sniper rifles probably, 50 or 60 people over the last couple weeks.
I mean, there have been exchanges of fire. There were a couple of rockets that were fired out of Gaza that didn't, as usual. There was one that hit a house kind of outside of Tel Aviv and injured some people, and then of course they respond with massive airstrikes against everything in the Gaza Strip. The things have been quiet the last few days. There's been some talk that Israel and Hamas may even be circling some kind of a ceasefire deal, like a real ceasefire deal. Egypt has been trying to broker something like that for a while now. So you kind of have to wait and see. Hamas has been talking pretty openly about this, that they're close to cutting a deal. The Israelis don't want to say anything. Netanyahu especially doesn't want to say anything right now while the election is looming. So there may be some news from there soon. It kind of depends on whether things remain relatively calm or they get back to rockets and airstrikes again.
And we should definitely point out that in the run-up to here, that the Trump administration has certainly showed their preference by giving Netanyahu the gift of recognizing